Okay, so I was asked to do a video on my view on the Skyrim Civil War, the Stormcloaks versus the Empire. I know one of you right now. Put up your dukes, man. Let's go for it. Come on. You know we're gonna have it out, right? Okay, and that's the person that actually requested this video. And I take requests, guys. So you let me know what you guys want to see, and I'll do my best to make it happen for you because I love you all. You know. So that's my opinions about the Stormcloaks versus the Empire. I'm going to give you the very, very short version without getting into deep into the drama of why I say this. And don't forget, we also got the Battleborn and what is it, the Greybeards? I probably got that wrong because I think the Greybeards are the guys you got to go. But you know what I mean? You got Battleborn and the other version of them, right? So, what's my take on the Empire versus the Stormcloaks? Okay, all right. I'm going to go religious on you here, and I have to in order for this to make sense because we have to modernize it, right? In order for this to make sense because it's going on right now, right here, right now, right? Okay, in Canada especially. When we take a look at Canada, when we take a look at the Western world, right? How were we formed? We were formed based on Christianity. All our values, morals, ethics, laws, how we treated one another, everything was based off of Christianity, was founded off of Christianity. Our society was founded off Christianity, and our culture was founded off Christianity. And I know 100% all of us can agree with that, right? Okay. That's the way I approach this situation in Skyrim. So the way I look at it is like this: what happens? What happened to Canada? Let's look at Canada, where I live. Okay, all right. Let's make this real personal. Let's look at Canada, where I live. Okay. Um, what's happening? Well, we were an all Christian society. We're all Christian culture until immigration happened. And then as the immigrants came in, they brought their religious beliefs. And this is where you get the Thelmore and stuff coming into play, right? Okay. They brought their religious beliefs in. And what happens? They destroy the country from the inside out. Look at Toronto and what's going on there with the Muslim, okay? And they even were about to bomb someone for Islam in Toronto, literally. And they got caught by the police, thankfully, okay? And this is Christmas time, all right? So, when we see what's going on with Canada, okay, and how they're dismantling Christianity, and when we look at Bill C-9 and we see that it's an attack on the Christian faith literally, when we look at what happened at the Olympics in Paris, it's an attack on the Catholic Church directly. When we look at the LGBT, the drag queen job is to take down the Catholic Church. I think you see where I'm going with this, right? So then we get all of this toxicity that never existed before. And now you got, Islam and all these other different beliefs, Buddhism, Hinduism, all the isms, right? Okay. And what happens? You lose your society, you lose your culture, you lose everything, your heritage, everything that you used to be, right? Okay. Now, when we look at Canada and we look at the government, they're aligning with the enemy, okay? So we see an internal takeover by Islam going, hey, look, we're going to pray in your streets and shut down your streets, which they do, okay? Look it up. It's on YouTube. You can see videos of it, okay? That's the problem, right? Okay. Now all of a sudden, everything that we were, because I'm a much older person, so I know all the way back from the 70s to where we are now, okay? All right? So back then, we never had a problem. We were all Christian, okay? different types of Christian. You had Mormons, you had Protestants, you had Catholics. Catholics were the top, Protestants were second, and Mormons were third. But we all believed in the same Jesus Christ. We all believed in the same God. We're all Christians. Different viewpoints on certain things, right? But in the end, we had a lot of love and respect for one another, okay? Because we're still in the same family. You understand? When you inject all these other cultures and their influences into our society and our country, and you force us by them making rights, and this is why I said rights movements are wrong and they're evil, okay? Watch that video for context. All of a sudden they hide under rights and they use your laws against you, and then all of a sudden you become public enemy number one. So using that formula, which is a real life formula, how do you win a war? You divide and conquer, right? So they move in to Canada, bring their evil with them, and in doing so, take over Christianity, oppress it and suppress it to the point where they destroy it and dismantle it and teach younger children that the Bible is misogynist, sexist, hate speech, homophobic, and so on, right? Which is a lie. Massive lie, okay? To the point where they ban the Bible, and this is what's on the floor right now, or they edit the Bible, okay? It's Christmas time. You're not allowed to sing certain Christmas carols in Canada now. Not joking. Literally. When's the last time you heard of carolers, right? We used to go caroling all the time. And caroling, in case you don't know what it is singing Christmas carols door to door, right? To cheer people up. Now in Canada, that's illegal. This is what happens when you allow an outside influence to come in and they invade your country from the inside out and destroy it completely. And that's their goal. And it's not just Islam, it's all of them, right? You got the LGBT doing it too, right? They're teaching you that Christianity is evil. They're teaching you that the Bible is evil and all these other things and that, and it needs to change. Instead of accepting the real God, the one true God, remember, that's what the Thelmore are doing, right? Okay, just follow me on this. This is about context, okay? That's exactly what they're doing in the empire, right? So the Stormcloaks come in with their ideology, the Thelmore and all that kind of stuff, right? And they want to force that onto the people, okay? And when you look at the empire is fighting the enemy. The enemy that they allowed to come in to what they control and what they believe, and then they start banning the worship of Telos and things like this, right? Okay? And that's because they have to. Because they're losing their society, they're losing their culture, they're losing who they are, period. Now, the game makes it look like that it's actually the other way around with the Stormcloaks. But if you start off with the Battleborn, like if you're doing the Empire side, you start off with the Battleborn, you talk to them, you go and do their jobs, right? You can go to war that way, okay? Yeah, there's two wars here. Did you know that? No, there is. There's a war with the Battleborn, okay? And there's a war with the Empire. The Battleborn are the Empire, okay? And when you go to Whiterun, you'll see that they're Battleborn. And they go, Battleborn or Grey, whatever, I forget what it's called, Grey Beard will say, but it's Grey something, right? You say to that guy, Battleborn, he says, well met. And then they get into it. You find the old woman being antagonized behind the stall, okay, and she's with the gray mate. I think that's what they call gray mate. Anyway, I'm trying to remember what it is there. It's been a while since I've done. I'm just getting into it. You know what I mean? Right now in my current playthrough. And the thing is that that's what's going on, right? Now her son was taken, and they say, well, we had nothing to do with it, when actually they did, and so we see this internal struggle, right? Okay. I'm just trying to keep the short version, because now I realize I'm going down the rabbit hole where this is going to turn into a 3 hour long video. I could easily make this a 3 hour long video, okay? I said the short version. I got to keep that in mind. So what we have here is a conflict between religious beliefs. That's exactly what it is. The same thing you see happening in Canada right now with the attack on Christianity from an outside influence, from letting immigration in that didn't align with your beliefs. Okay? And that's the problem with Skyrim. That's the real problem, and that's the true problem. So if you side with the side that is not for their culture and their society, then you're siding with the enemy. Okay? But if you side with the side that is for their culture and their society, then you're siding with the right side. And that, to me, looks like it's the empire, right? They want to keep their traditions. They want to get rid of all of this outside influence and kick them out. Okay? And you hear them going, Skyrim belongs to the Nords. And this is where racism comes in too. Look at the hatred towards the Dark Elves, and who hates them? Right? Not the Empire. Like, the Empire are not the bad people in this. They sound bad because we watch a lot of Star Wars movies, okay? Right? Okay, and the Empire usually is evil, right? I mean, you look at history, you look at the Bible, the Roman Empire is terrible, right? And I think that that's what they're trying to portray here, but it's actually the other way around. Here, the Empire is actually the good guys, not the bad guys. So when you look into it, and you notice about the Great Concordian, hopefully I said that right, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Those of you that are deep into, this game's like 2011, okay? Can we have a conversation without me having to worry about spoilers? Because I see videos of people saying, I don't want to do spoilers about a game that was done in the 80s. I'm like, if that came out a week ago, that'd be a different story. But man, we're talking about games here that are like decades old, for Pete's sake. You know what I mean? I want to say more, but I was told by some people in the community, and I love you guys, to make shorter videos. So this is going to be the short version. And for those of you that want to deep dive into it, let me know in the comment section. I'll give you the longer one. But the short end of the stick is that, just like with Christianity in Canada, it is now under attack and runs the risk of losing its identity, which is what made Canada and what made our society and our culture, due to other influences. Like the LGBT is pushing hard against the Bible, and they are. They're pushing hard against Christianity, okay? So you got beliefs like that, okay, with rights coming in to protect them while they burn 100 churches in Canada from 2021 to now, okay, in 2025. And this is the problem. And then you invite Islam in, and they'll go around and they'll kill you. So either you're going to get arrested over your own culture and society, over your own religion that founded your society and culture. Ironic, isn't it? Or you're going to get beheaded and killed. And that's happening in Canada now. I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. That's why the empire is doing what it's doing. It's going, we got to get rid of this nonsense. We got to get rid of the enemy, right? This is our society. This is our culture. This is, we're the ones that run the show, okay? So what they're trying to do is come in and save tradition. And what's interesting is when you get into the story, I'm trying not to make this too long. I really want to, you know what I mean? Like you can see it in me. I want to go deep into this, right? You can see it, okay? Just like I did with Serena, you know, kind of thing, right? Um, he probably best just to leave it at that because I can see myself just going deep into this, you know. But that's the thing. That's what's going on. They want you to believe that the Stormcloaks are the good guys because they look like the underdogs, like Rocky. You know what I mean? The movie, right? And you're always cheering for Rocky Balboa because he's always the underdog, right? But in this case, it's actually the Arab Empire trying to save their heritage because it's all about the banning of Talos and this and that. Well, hey, if you got false gods, and someone brought up Jesus, the person who asked for this brought up Jesus, and I noticed you put that in a capital J, but you didn't do it in a blasphemous way, and I love you for it. That's beautiful because that's exactly what's going on here. But he takes the side of the other side. He takes the Stormcloaks, and I'm like, for the same reason, Christianity, Jesus Christ, that's exactly what's going on here. Because when you look around the world, right? Look at what's going on in the UK, right? They got Islam, right? Okay, underneath a Christmas tree. Well, Islam, right across the street, is Christmas. You know, like there is only one God, one true God, and that's Allah. And it's like, are you friggin' kidding me? And that's happening in the UK. And you should see what's going on in Canada. I live it. I'm here, you know? And so I understand exactly what's going on in Skyrim because it's happening to my own country. And I lived here. I mean, we were called rednecks for a reason, right? Because we worked hard underneath the sun. That's why you got a redneck, you know? Hence the term. And I've seen a lot of societal shifts over the years. Well, you can't say this, you can't say that. I still do. I'll say nigger. I don't care. I'll say speck. I'll say Casper. I don't care. I'll say cracker. I don't care. Because there's no such thing as racism and all this other stuff. And when you allow this nonsense to take over, like the LGBT, the rights movements, and all this other kind of stuff, they will oppress you and suppress you. And they will force you to bow down and worship them as if they were God to be God. Okay? And this is what's happening right here, right now in my own city, in my province, and in my country, and even in my own neighborhood. I got a sign right on my door saying, I love Jesus Christ, God bless. And I fight back. And I see the ignorance in my channel from people that are pro-LGBT, and I fight back. And how do I fight back? With common sense and love, right? But I stand up for what I believe in, you know, because this is the enemy taking over Canada. The LGBT is trying to take over Canada. The Islam is trying to take over Canada. And no, none of you guys belong in Canada. You need to leave. Okay, period. And that's the way I look at the Skyrim dilemma, right? When it comes to the Skyrim Civil War, because we're facing it right now in Canada for the first time. We've never had a civil war. The States has, right? Abraham Lincoln, right? Being the bad guy, actually, because he was the one that was for slavery, right? So that's how you make it personal, is when you look at that. So who won the war in America? And we all know, right? Over their civil war. Well, now Canada's facing a civil war over religion, over faith, right? And that's what's happening now. And when you start to make it personal like that, then you start to understand the Skyrim Civil War. And you have to make it personal. Otherwise, you're not going to understand it, right? Just like your relationship with Serena or anybody else, it has to be personal somehow, right? You have to find a trigger, right? And that's what's going on here. So the true people, and this is the short version, the true people that actually should win the war is the empire, because they're fighting for their right, because this is our country, our province, whatever you want to call it, right? Okay, our state. And they're coming in and they're going, hey, hang on a sec now. You're going against our own society and culture and our own religious beliefs. So we're going to ban this stuff. We're bringing the Thalmor in, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to rule you with an iron fist. Because when the enemy comes out and tries to take you over from the inside out, you got to come back 10 times stronger. And you really got to kick them in the butt. And this is what Canada needs to do with the LGBT. This is what Canada needs to do with Islam and all the other nonsense going on. And if the politicians aren't going to do it, look it up on the internet, on YouTube, okay? You got movements now in Canada happening where people are pushing back against the LGBT and pushing it back against Islam. And we're going to kick them out of the country. If the government won't do it, because they love to sit in the House of Commons and debate it all day, which gets you nowhere, because it's meaningless, it's trivial, right? Then we will. And that's what we're starting to do now, because we've had enough. And you see it in my videos when I talk about the LGBT. But it's the same thing when it comes to Islam. That's how you approach the Skyrim Civil War. So hopefully that made sense now, kind of thing. All right? And that's where I stand on it. And that's why I side. And here we go. One of you guys is coming out swinging, but I love you. You wrote an amazing piece. You did. You have a really cool, valid point. You do. A lot of points, actually. He wrote a really long, lengthy piece, okay? And then he wanted my opinion about this. He wanted my thoughts on it. I'm like, okay, here you go. And this is the short version. So if you guys want the longer version, hit me up in the comment section, let me know, and I'll go deep into it, and I'll show you why it is. And that will definitely be full of spoilers like crazy. Because I'll get into the Battleborn, I'll get into the whole history, I'll get into everything, and I'll go, the Empire was meant to win all along. But a lot of people that play this game think it should have been, the other side, the Stormcloaks, right? It's not the case. It's the Empire, because this is what they rule. This has always been their traditions, right? Now you hear about, see, here we go again, right? How easy it is to make my videos longer, right? It's the truth, though, because it's from the heart, But when we look at the other side of the fence, they try to play the victim card. And then that one guy there, I'm trying to remember his name now, and he's really popular, Eric Olaf or something like that, he shouted the king to death. But then they go, when you go into Solstheim, or not Solstheim, when you go into that one that's like that, it starts with an S, right? The one up in the northeast corner, right? Okay. On the left hand side of the map, way up there, right? Okay. When you go up to that city up there, they show the beheading of the person, and he goes, "But we were in the right and everything like that, and we won in fair combat, right?" And they put him to death, right? And you hear the husband and wife getting into a spat about it with their child right there. And it's like, you go home, you go home. And then they're talking about how her uncle is this really bad person. And one defends him and one doesn't, right? And so that's the thing here, right? You find all these cities within Skyrim, okay, that are either on the side of the Empire or they're on the side of the Stormcloaks. And when you pay really close attention to the details and you listen to both sides, and if you played this game a number of times, and I'm sure you have, when you play it as both sides and you get both sides of the story, like the ending to both sides, like one is like, the Empire and one is the Stormcloaks, right? When you get those endings, which one's right in the end, right? When you actually look at the ending, right? Without trying to make this longer, and you see how deep I can go into this, right? So there's a lot going on. Not only with the conversations, and see, this is why it's important for people to read. This is why it's important for people to go out and talk to everybody in all the cities, right? And read all the books. Because then you learn about the history of what's going on. You learn about Talos and who he is and everything like that. And you learn about what the Empire is doing, what the Thalmor are doing, and what the the other side there, you know who I'm thinking of though, what they're doing to the Stormcloaks, right? Okay, and then you see how the cities are divided. And some of the Jarls, look at how they look at it. The Jarl in Whiterun, he's like, I don't care, I just care about my city surviving the dragon attack, right? That's my pressing matter. Who they execute, none of my business, right? So he doesn't take a side. So you got some cities where the citizens take sides, but the ruler of the city doesn't. Okay. And look at how split and divided Skyrim really is over the whole thing. And what's interesting is that if you played as one side, then I challenge you to play as the other side. And right from the start, like when you go through, when you're about to be beheaded and the dragon comes and saves your life, and you take off, and then you have a choice: go through the left door or the right door. So one's the Empire and one's the Stormcloaks. When you make that choice, follow that path all the way with that choice, right? So if you go through the Empire door, follow the Empire and see what they're all about. When you go through the Stormcloak door, follow them and see what they're all about. And then you can formulate a proper conclusion. Because in order to really understand what's happening here, you have to understand both sides. And you don't. You can't. Because once you pick a side, once you choose a side, okay, by listening to everybody, and you see the hatred and the racism and everything like that, and you see the culture falling apart and everything's being decimated, you go, who are the bad guys really in this, right? And that's what happens when you allow the enemy to come in and take you over from the inside out. And that's exactly what's happened to Skyrim. They were taken over from the inside out. Oh, you can't ban Telos, no, boo, boo. And that's exactly what's happening. Because when you look at Christianity, that's why we're being oppressed and suppressed right now. The LGBT hate us, and they do. They are literally attacking the Bible. They are literally attacking Christianity. You saw the beheading of Marie Antoinette and the reenactment of the Last Supper with Dionysus going across at the Olympics there, right? Okay, in Paris. Okay, so this is not just what's happening in Canada. It's happening globally, right? And Christianity, for the first time, is facing the highest amount of persecution. So when you see this happening in the Western world, which has been our society and our culture, though your enemy is LGBT, your enemy is multiculturalism, because they are doing their best to destroy you from the inside out by mocking your God, mocking your faith, mocking your Bible, mocking your beliefs, and oppressing and suppressing you by saying you can't pray, you can't read the Bible, you can't even use it in defense like you used to be able to do in the courtrooms. Okay? This is what they're doing right now. This is how evil they are. This is how demonic they are. They don't realize it, but that's exactly what they're doing. Okay? Like I said, they're a cult. And when you have that kind of cancer, what happens? It grows and it grows and it grows and it grows until it takes over the whole body and you die. It's like a cancer, right? And that's exactly what's happening in Skyrim. You got a cancer, you got to remove it. So that's what the Empire is doing. They're coming in by force and they're going, you're done. We've had enough of your shenanigans, okay? We're here to protect the people. We're here to defend our rights, our society, our culture, our civilization, not yours. And you taking it for granted by coming into our empire, spreading your poison, your toxin, Telos, okay, and the worship of Telos. We've had enough of your shenanigans. And now we're going to come in and kick your butt. And what does that lead to eventually? Because neither side wants to sit down politically and work it out. Exactly what's happening in Canada with the LGBT and Islam. The two are going to meet and there's going to be a war. And Canada soon is headed for a civil war. And that's exactly how it's playing out in Skyrim, you know. And so that's why the Empire's in the right. Because this is their culture, their society, not the Stormcloaks, like they try to make it be. And the only way that you can really understand this is if you play as both sides. And you go around role-playing, staying in character, that you're for the Empire. And then after you do that playthrough, stay in character as a Stormcloak. And then see the bigotry, see the hatred, see the racism, and everything else going on. And then start to go, hey, hang on a sec. Because the Stormcloaks hate the Dark Elves. When you go to Windhelm, they have a tremendous hatred to them, you know. And I'm just like, okay, so the Nords hate the Dark Elves. Why would you side with them? And Windhelm is the capital of the Stormcloaks. And when you go in there, into their inner sanctum, you know, like the place where the Jarl is kind of thing, but they don't have a Jarl, you know what I mean? But when you go in there, right, to join, like if you're to join the Stormcloaks, right, you listen to the dialogue that's going on between two people. Don't interrupt them. Listen to the dialogue. And they walk from room to room, right? He's sitting there like he's a king, right? Okay, on the throne. And they're discussing things. And then they go into the other room where the battle plans are all laid out. Listen to what they say. And then go to all the small camps without interrupting them, okay? But then go to the small camps and listen to what they say without interrupting them. Then get into the dialogue with those characters, right? And see what they have to say personally. And then all of a sudden, you start to wake up and start to realize that maybe the Empire's the good guys here, you know? Because that's what I did my first playthrough. I listened to the Empire and what they're all about, and I'm like, why are they hating on the Empire? Well, they brought in the Thelmor and they're trying to ban Telos. Okay, but what's the issue there, really? Right? When you get to the heart of the matter. And when you listen to the Stormcloak side, they're very stubborn, prideful, arrogant, boastful, and they're not for the country when you really stop to think about it. Okay, they don't care about the land. You know, like you know, people will say that this might be a longer version. The people will say that the Empire are the bad guys because they don't care. No, they do care. That's the whole point, right? The Stormcloaks are faking it. They don't care. Look at the hatred they got towards the Dark Elves. When you go to Windhelm, look at the hatred and the racism that happens to that one woman there when you first come into the city, right? Windhelm, right? Look at it. See what's going on. Understand what's happening. And then it's like, whoa, that's dark. That's rude. And then when you go to the corner club there, and when you go to all these different stores there, you go to the dark area and you you follow the murder scene. Remember, there's a murder there, and you can take part in it. You should do all these things and all these little side quests that most people don't do, because you learn a lot about what's going on in that city. And this is with every city. Always do all the side quests. Listen to everybody. Don't interrupt them. A lot of people love to just plow through these games, right? What you got to do is, they're exchanging dialogue for a reason. Listen to it. Same thing with the citizens. It's not trivial stuff. Listen to it. Okay? It's not like, I killed a cave bear today. What did you do? That's different. Okay? Listen to them. And then they get into the political and their religion and things like that. And then you understand that the empire is for, in this case, we'll say Christianity, and the Stormcloaks are for the LGBT and Islam. You see what I'm saying? And so that's the cancer, and it needs to be removed. And so that's why they ban the worshipping of Telos, because it's evil, it's demonic, and they want to get rid of it. It's cancerous, and it's catching on, right? And when you listen to people talk about the Stormcloaks, the Nords, and why they hate the Nords, right? Okay, and you notice this when you walk into Riften. This really shows you I know my stuff, right? I'm naming the cities even, right? Okay. When you walk into Riften, when you walk into that bar there, where the guy's talking about Mara and he's praising and all that, and then that one woman who runs the bar there tells the other lizard guy to go up and put an end to it, and this is when, what's her face is leaned up against the wall, and the leader of the Thieves Guild comes and approaches you. If you listen to the story that's going on there between them, you see the hatred and bigotry right there, right? So you see the problems in Riften. So you got to pay attention to all the little details, right? You got to pay attention to what you think is just background noise. No, it actually means something. And then you got to start reading the books. Never thought about that, did you? You should hit the books. Oh, this is just a book. I'm going to see if it's a skill book or not. Open it up. Okay, close it in and go on, right? Sell it for a few bucks. I actually read the books in the game. All of them. And you got to take time, to do this stuff. Otherwise, you're not probably going to figure this out. Because probably what you do, and I'm just guessing here, but this is what I see happen on YouTube for the most part, is people just plow through it really quickly, get to the end, have their ending, and go, okay, I'm going on to the next game. What I like to do is immersion. When I role play a character, I role play it. And I go deep into it, and I go, okay, what's this really all about? So when I went into Skyrim, I decided, okay, I'm going to play it as the Empire or the Stormcloaks. Then that's who I sided with, and I followed that path all the way. And then I thought, well, I wonder what the other side's like. Let me find out what that's all about, right? So then I go down that path and find out what it's all about. And only by doing the two do you actually really see it. But you can see it when you walk into the different cities like Windhelm and Riften and things like that. You see the inner turmoil. You see the hatred. You see all... This shirt likes to ride up on me here. Sorry about that. It's a small shirt. You see all these things happening. Okay? Right? And who are the ones that are spreading hatred? It's the Nords, who are, for the most part, siding with the Stormcloaks. And there's your problem. They hate the Dark Elves, they hate the Khajiits, they hate. And they bring that hatred and that bigotry into the picture with worshipping of false gods. And so what the Empire does is come in by force and go, we're putting an end to this, like cancer. Look at Canada. We got what you guys call woke, the LGBT, and then we got Islam too. Now people think because I speak against them, I hate them. I don't hate you guys. I hate what you stand for because it goes against what we are. Okay? I want you to get the help that you need by going to mental health. I want you to get the help that you need spiritually by getting right with God. But you don't believe in the same God I do. And there's the problem, you see. Because if you did, you would know that being gay is not right. And nothing about the LGBT is right. And that's the truth. That's literally the truth. And that's the problem with the shift in society and culture. They're getting away from the real society and culture that was Canada and the United States because it's the Western, side of the world, right? And they're spreading their toxin and their poisons. So, like the empire, that's exactly what the empire is doing. They see this, they recognize this, they go, we got to put an end to this because if we don't, it's going to destroy us from the inside out. And then we don't have an empire anymore to rule. That's what's happening in Skyrim. And that's why I side with the empire. That's the short version. So hopefully that makes sense. By using real world events right now that are going on, like LGBT and Islam, for example, within the Western world, And when you look around the rest of the world, it's happening to where Christianity was dominant too. And that's what we're faced with right now. So thanks a lot for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching. God bless you. Share your thoughts down below. And let's have an awesome conversation. And Merry Christmas to you all.